Welcome to the 38th Video Community of Practice meeting. I'm Pankaj Agrawal, founder of Next Software Solutions and working group leader of this community of practice. Let's get started. There are a few things that we would like to discuss. Uh, First, let's look at the issues that I have been discussing with Jason. So, uh, we both have been working on this prototype, I think today. So I saw that there was change related to registration. Can you talk about it, Jason?
Yeah, I think before it was the previous version had it where you could just set the registration to a static GUID number, UUID number, or you could comment it out and just use the dynamic way. I was having some issues running it, and I just used the RUUID in there. But yeah, that part you're talking about with my params, trying to get registration, I think it was, what is it, trying to look for the ADL wrapper to see if there's a registration value set in there.
So yes, if there are two issues. One is that I think registration value is being changed. So yes, we can correct that. But the other issue is if the registration ID is not there, and if we are setting a random registration ID, what will happen is the resume feature will not work if the person wants it to work.
Yeah, and I took it out because I was trying to do some testing and I couldn't do anything because it kept resuming to the end of the video. So I had to take it off. But it's weird. It wasn't doing that. If I take off the static UID, I guess we just need to have some way to make it a little bit more feature rich, so they could have the option to turn it on or off.
Yeah, so if someone wants to turn on or off the resume feature, they can provide the random registration ID. So I think it can be done from the URL, as well as if they are using these static pages. The registration value can be added, I think, also from the index.html page. So
Okay.
coding it inside the library JavaScript file, I think it is not required. But yes, if it was resuming at the end of the video, that is definitely an issue which I think we should uh, try to fix. So if you can help me reproduce the issue, I'll take a look at that.
Okay, sure. I think it might be okay now. I just need to add it back. I was having some terrible issues with caching with the Chrome. I could not get it to get rid of. I'd make an update to the JavaScript file and then try to upload it to the web server, and I don't know if the headers settings for caching on that web server were not set up good or what, but I ended up just running it locally with the HTTP server and got rid of my caching problems. So for a while I was just kind of going nuts trying to get some basic things together.
Yeah, sometimes that happens to me as well. And there are two possible things that I try. One is if I go to index, I'm sorry, the inspect, and go to the network, and usually there are list of files. If I refresh, I'll see these files. So I click on right click and then clear browser cache. So if it is browser level cache, this will fix that. And if there is server level cache, what I generally do is I go to the code where that JavaScript file is being loaded. So in our case, it is in index.html file. And after the JavaScript file name, that is video.js, .js, whatever, I add a question mark and some parameter there. So it changes the
Yeah,
URL.
I saw somebody's note on that. I think do it where they call it like cache busting or something. They add like a query parameter at the end of the file, question mark
Yeah,
equals like some kind of versioning scheme.
yeah. So that changes the URL, and that when the URL changes, the caching generally doesn't work. Generally doesn't work. It, it is not always, but generally it reloads the file.
Yeah,
So,
thanks. Yeah, it's weird. I get that problem a lot, but then I don't know. I don't know that I've been
yeah,
testing where I
it's
upload something to a web server. It's like I added a new router recently. I don't know if like it's caching stuff, but it's too many variables.
yeah. Caching is great for website performance, but when there is a problem, it is a big problem.
Hmm.
So
Okay. Yeah,
next,
yeah. Well, let me get that updated, and we'll see if it's still doing it. It may not be doing that um, with the registration, so I'll work back on that with you.
okay, great.
I was trying
Uh,
to get these updates though, based on our last call. I was trying to get them squeezed in here, so one we could get some examples with length in there, and the what was the other one? Completion threshold. I think I was working on that one too. And then once the new files updated and I can generate some more example statements, then I can take those examples and put them into the Git book. It'd be a lot easier than trying to just hand type them. Actually generate real statement examples from this prototype.
okay. Yeah. Next thing was this CC enabled and subtitle language. You said that this is undefined. So what should we do for this? Is there anything we can do? So just to update John and Anthony, what is happening is in the initialized statement, this CC enabled and CC subtitle language, these two parameters are getting removed because these values are undefined before the user clicks the play button.
Actually, I actually pushed a fix about an hour or two ago, so it should be working now. Yeah, it was like undefined, but I updated it so that it just it sets the variable to CC enabled to false by default, and it sets the language just to an empty string. And then once closed captions are enabled, then those get turned into actual values. I don't know if that's acceptable or not, but that way we keep the what we had in there before, Honkish.
Uh, if that information is not there, we can always remove those extensions. But I'm wondering if when the user clicks play and the subtitle is enabled for some setting,
Yeah,
we should be able to populate that in the initialized statement.
yeah. Should we? I can't remember what our rule was in the profile documentation. Are we just setting it for initialized, or are we setting it with the played statement also?
Um,
Paused.
It gets set with interacted if they change it.
You can set with interacted only. Yeah. Okay.
I think so. It'll initialize the interacted.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could send with interacted or with the initialized, but it would be best if it can be added to the initialized because we would not need to send two separate statements.
Hey, I got a take a phone call real quick. Let me put you guys on mute. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I think initially when we built the prototype, initialized was sent as soon as the page was loaded, and then I think for the same reason we changed it so that the initialized is sent when the user clicks on the play button. So at the same time, I believe both statements are being sent. So we should be able to fix this in a way that when the user clicks on play button, first the initialized statement is sent along with valid values for CC enabled and subtitle language if it is enabled,
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
and then send the play statement. So this was one thing that I have been discussing with Jason. Another thing was regarding the quality. So we'll discuss when he is back from his phone call. Another thing that I was anything. Okay, so let's move to another topic till Jason is here. So I have been working on trying to create a table where we list all the verbs and list all the required and optional extensions that are related to that verb. So for some reason it was not updated. So I'm not sure why the website version of this is not published yet.
Of all the ones I should have caught, Anthony, it should have been this one, but I just missed this one when trying to find a block for the booth meeting. Pankaj already knows about it. He actually messaged me to remind me about it after we had already confirmed the date and time. Sorry, Pankaj. Go ahead. I was just answering Anthony.
Okay. So, yes, I made an update to the Git book. For some reason, the website version is not published, so that I'm not able to see the website version. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, their tool is unreliable with the publishing portion of it. I'm not sure why. I've had a lot of issues with it too, not publishing.
Yeah, so let me see the. Okay, so this is the PDF version. Yeah, so it is in this. So this is the table that I have been trying to work on today. So I've named it summary of extensions. I would need a better name probably for this. But what I'm trying to do is add all the verbs. So for the initialized, we have these required extensions: context extensions, session ID, length, and completion threshold if value is less than 1. And then optional extensions should be CC subtitle enabled, CC subtitle language, frame rate. So all these extensions will be optional. Then we have played with context extension, session ID. So session ID will be in all the statements. And then for played, there is a result extension time. For paused, there is result extension time, progress, played segments. For seeked, we have time from and time to. Right now, I have put the result extensions of progress and played segments in the optional section. So if we think that it should be in the required section for seeked as well, we can move it here. And then interacted, almost all the extensions are in the optional except few that will always be fixed. So I've removed length from here, and I've removed screen size from here in the optional. If you think we need to add those two, we can add those two here. And then completed, session ID, time, progress, played segments. And then for completed, there are two more things. That is result completion should be true, and the result duration should be there with the time spent on the video,
I
and
like
then
it.
they terminated with time progress and plate segments. So this is just what I have. If there are any mistakes, any improvements, should we discuss each of them separately right now, or what would be the best way? I think this will help people who are implementing. It will summarize the entire document in one place.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I remember when we were doing the H5P additions, I felt like there was a lot of scrolling up and down to kind of figure out what was supposed to be in certain verbs. So I'm sure this will be useful to people trying to do similar things. I mean, we can review it, but I think we would just be checking for accuracy. Yeah, it looks good to me.
Yeah, I need to bounce it off of the statement templates I put in the profile as well to make sure it matches up the things that are required versus optional.
Otherwise, I think it's a good addition, though. I mean, it makes sense to put in there.
Yeah, this is very handy.
Yeah. So how can we see that profile?
On the profile summary?
Let me get a link for you.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. So the profile, anything that's in a concept is like, a verb, an activity type, extension, things like that. We've got the completion threshold. I added that in there, as you can see. We got pause, played. I added length and completion threshold at the last update I made. But then at the bottom, there were some other findings that someone had reported, the templates. I just need to make sure these kind of match what you have laid out there, package too, in terms of the rules. That property that's called presence.
Okay.
That one's hold on, you're sharing your screen, aren't you? Yeah. Included is the same thing as saying required, and recommended is the same thing as saying optional.
Okay. So let's see from the first one initialized. So ID. So dot ID means the statement ID, or
Yeah. Yep.
so
And types.
do we need it, because ID, I think it is a required thing anyway.
Yeah, it might be redundant. I don't know. If you're checking to validate a statement, though, yeah, it's required in the spec when you're, trying to send a conformance statement to a learning record store. But if there's eventually some kind of validation tool that validates the statements, you might have to have something in there that checks for that too. It doesn't hurt anything
Oh,
by having it.
okay.
Is that being built? Somebody doing
Uh,
a
no, I
statement
wish it were.
profile validator?
I was on a CMI5 call last week, and I asked the same question to Andy at ADL. He said they want to. I don't know if it's in the scope of what they're doing right now.
I think I had mentioned to Megan that I thought that would be something nice to have in the profile server, a way to send
Yeah, for
statements for
sure.
verification.
For sure. Yeah,
It
did
sounded
you
like she
talk
had
to?
got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounded like she had gotten that recommendation from a few people.
yeah.
Sure. Hopefully, they're going to have a funding round or something for that.
Yeah, I think so. So that would be good to double check these, what you have in here, these columns, Pankaj, as being required versus optional.
Yeah, so in this case, you have length here as required and
Mm-hmm.
completion threshold as recommended. So I don't, I don't know if we can have conditional required like I have here. So completion threshold, if value is less than one, we have it required. So if it cannot be conditional here, we can, yes, we'll have to have it as recommended.
Would a pattern fall into that? Sort of a condition.
For the completion threshold, if it is less than one,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's probably not what it's for.
then it should be required.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that would fall within the confines of the patterns that are supposed to be defined. But I think that's different, though, right? It's probably not what that's meant for.
But when would it be less than one? Because isn't that, a 1.0 is what helps generate the completed statement?
Sorry, guys, I got to jump out into the MOOC meeting. Maybe I'll see some of you
Okay.
over there here in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. See you. Yeah. So when completion threshold is one, it is as good as completion threshold is not there.
Mm,
We assume that completion threshold is 100% and completion statement will be generated when the entire video is watched. But if completion threshold is less than one, let's say zero point 0.9, so zero point 0.9 would mean 90% of video is watched. And as soon as 90% of video is watched, a completed statement would be sent. So that is the use of completion threshold. If it is less than one, say zero point 0.9, that means 90% of video being watched will generate a completion statement.
okay. Hey, hold on just a second, Punk. I just got to take a phone call real quick.
Oh.
This here might be an emergency. I'll go on mute for. Pockets, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my mic stopped working.
No problem. Yeah, so I'm a little confused about few things.
Okay.
What should be optional and what should be required. So, for example, the session ID is recommended, which is optional and which is in line with what we have so far in the profile. Session ID is optional. So, if we have it optional, I'll have to move all the session ID from here in the required column to the optional column.
Oh, I might have it wrong, so I don't know. I if you want me to base it off of what you've got going on here, I can make those updates on my end.
No. You based it on the profile, and the profile says it is optional. So session ID was one of the extensions that had a lot of discussions, and
Uh-huh.
there were some objections whether we should have it or not. So I personally want to make it recommended, make it required because it is so easy to add session ID.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason we have it optional, so I don't know.
Okay.
Probably I'll move it to optional in this chart, but it'd be really good if everyone uses it.
Okay, so I had it right in there. I thought I had done these based on what was in the the spec where it said optional or not, but
Yeah, so that is correct. Um, Now played. So in the played you have played segments as recommended. I don't think it matters if recommended is there or not, but probably we can remove it if you want,
played segments.
because in the played verb,
Oh, do we not send it with a played verb?
yeah, we when someone plays, let's say for the first time, there is no played segments, and even when they do it after a pause, the played segments is already sent with the pause statement. We don't need to
Ah,
send it with the play.
makes sense. Okay, write that down here.
Because if we have played segments, then we also need to have progress, and we also need to have the length,
Mm-hmm.
because if only one thing is sent, it doesn't give every information. So another thing was paused. Paused, we have length as included, time as included, completion threshold, recommended plates, time progress plate segments, time progress plate segments. Now, do we have? I think progress is required, right?
I think it is. Let's double check that.
We have written optional here, but I don't. Progress must assign progress value to statements. Must assign progress value to statements with paused, terminated, and completed. Yeah. So for paused, we need to have progress, played segments, and length. So played segment and progress needs to be required here in the paused verb.
Okay. What do we have it set to now?
For the paused, it is set to recommended, so we need to change it to included.
Okay. Got it.
It is not done for terminated and completed. We need to do that for those also.
Same rules as paused for those extensions.
Yeah. So length, progress, and plate segment. These three are required for these three verbs: paused, terminated, and completed.
Gotcha. Got it.
Okay.
So you're going to update that to required in here in the profile spec documentation.
Yeah, I'm confused. How should we do it? Like, in this place, if you see my screen,
Hmm.
we are listing the information about progress. So here, first I have written optional, and then I have written must assign progress value to statements with pause, terminated, and completed.
Yeah, maybe you
So
just copied that section over from another section that said optional. Yeah.
yeah, but when I wrote that, my frame of mind was that anything that is optional in any statement, it is optional. So probably I wrote it optional because it is optional for verbs other than these three. But
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. But for
but
those verbs, it is required. Okay.
yeah, so from two different frames of mind, we have a conflicting thought on what should be optional and what should be required.
Yeah. Well, what are we putting up there for ones that are required? Do we say required period for the LRP obligations
I
section?
think I think all of them are optional except length.
Okay.
So I think all of them are mentioned as optional. Probably we should remove optional.
Yeah, or maybe, like you said, have a part that says required and a part that says optional. We could say required period and then a bullet point is like this extension is required to be used with these verbs. I think you've got it some. Yeah, so yeah, maybe yeah, so you've got one right there, completion threshold. Wait, with these verbs, video profile statements with these verbs required. Okay.
So even length I have mentioned as required, but it doesn't. It conflicts with the way I have in other places because length is also required only in initialized, completed, terminated, and paused. So it is not required in play.
Gotcha.
So, so probably I should remove this optional and required from everywhere, and this table will solve the problem of understanding what is required where.
Yeah. But I do think it would be good to go back and update that other table, HTML table too, and maybe just make another section called required so it doesn't assume that everything there is optional.
Yeah, so this table is not only in PDF, it should come in the HTML as well. Uh,
Okay.
Gitbook has not published that to web, so it is not showing it on the web version. So
Okay.
it might get published after a while. So this table, this summary table will come in the web version as well. And
Okay.
I think because it is confusing, we should remove the required and optional entirely.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Just remove that from all of them is what you're saying.
or if you want, we instead of writing the statements like it must be included in this, instead of doing this, we add a separate row here,
Hmm.
and which says something like required in these verbs and the list of verbs there.
Yeah, I like that. Either could go either way. Well, you've got a usage one. Could go in there, I guess.
Yeah, currently we have it in obligations. So LRP obligations says this. Maybe we
That
can
makes sense.
leave it like that, and just remove this required and optional word.
Yeah, at the top. I agree. Let's do. That
And
sounds good.
the summary table will summarize anyway.
Yeah, that sounds like a good change.
Sweet. In case of seeked, we have time to and time from as required. Session ID is recommended. So I can move session ID for everyone here. And then, yeah, so in the case of seeked, I have called progress and played segment as optional.
Hmm.
So do we require it or should we keep it optional?
For progress and played segments to be set during seeked.
Yeah, probably length as well. So these three are generally in bunch: length, progress, and played segments, and they are required in paused and completed and terminated. So paused, in case of paused, we are storing this progress and played segments. In case of seeked, should we have it?
I don't know. What would be the value of sending it with seeked?
Um, so seeked is a combination of paused and play.
Yeah.
So in case of seeked, it first does a pause and then plays from a different place. Now we are not using seeked during resume, uh, because it will just add a problem. Otherwise, we could use that as well. What happens is, let's say someone seeked and paused didn't happen. So it will be useful only when seeked happens and paused doesn't happen after that, which should happen.
Yeah, like let's say they drug the seek bar to like halfway through the video and then watch the second half or something. But you would want to know what parts they skipped and played if they
Yeah,
just
that
seeked. If they just seeked, and then yeah, I could see what you're saying. If because they could seek without hitting play or pause. They could just seek to a certain point in the video and watch the end of it. Let's say they had already watched the first half a few times and they skipped right to the middle.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
if they keep seeking, if they don't pause and play,
yeah,
still at the end, there should be a paused statement, whether they leave or whether they stop or whether they just close the browser. A paused
yeah.
statement must be sent at the end. So having this information in seeked will only be useful when that pause doesn't go out for some reason.
Okay,
Otherwise, if paused is there, it is there. So that information is not lost.
okay.
So so should we keep it optional or just remove it from there? Or
don't
Or
know.
we can keep it optional, right?
Yeah, I think keep it optional is good. Because someone like may not really need to implement that, or the way I think about some of these things being optional is like, well, it depends on the video player you're working with. Like we're using this prototype, or we're using Video.js. Well, we've got an API and we have a lot of options, but depending on how people are implementing things in the player they're using, they may not be able to get all of the played segments from the video player. So I think it should be optional. Um,
No, but if you cannot get played segments, then the entire purpose is lost, because then you cannot even send it with a post statement. So that is a completely different scenario.
yeah. Well, I
Where
mean, they should at least be able to get the time from and the time to. They skipped around or seek to.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know that they could all necessarily, you know, be able to get all the other things depending on the type of player they're using.
Anyway, yeah, if they are not getting that information, then it could be a problem with other required elements as well.
Yeah.
So that would be a different scenario where probably video profile will not work at all. So
Yeah. I wonder if we should be more relaxing on some of these, depending on the type of player people are using. Um,
yeah, the required thing so far is only the length
yeah.
and the time of played and paused,
Mm-hmm.
and then time of seeked from and seek to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's all what is really required. And if you have the time of played, the time of paused, so if you know where the user clicked on play, where the user clicked on pause, and if he's seeking from one place to another, from where he's seeking and where he's restarting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes
if you
sense.
have these four pieces of time, you can calculate the progress, you can calculate the played segments. So progress and played segments are calculated values which can be calculated if you know the time of played and paused and seeked.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to use the profile, if you want to know the completion and those kind of stuff, you need a player which can at least report on the time of played and time of paused and time of seeked.
Mm-hmm.
So if we relax that, uh, I don't think video profile will work at all.
Okay.
Like if
Okay.
you don't know the time of played and time of paused, you cannot do you'll not know what the user has done.
Yeah. Got another time. It's like 90% of it.
Yeah, so if a user starts at 0 and on the first second he moves it to the 99.99 and then
Yeah.
complete. So that is what is happening with most of the video tracking currently. They just
Yeah.
check if the user has reached the end. So yes, the utility of video profile is where you can know what the user has done.
Okay. So for Seeked, I guess, I mean, it doesn't hurt for those to be required then, because they're going to have to be able to do those other things anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So should we keep it optional or should we just make it required?
I don't, it's up to you, man. I don't know. I think there's a value in progress. I don't know about played segments and Seeked, but you said if you're not gonna get it from paused. It's a nice backup to be able to get it from there, right?
Yeah, in case paused is not sent after received.
Yeah.
So if paused is not sent after received, the user loses progress till the last post was sent. But currently the way we are using resume is based on the paused statement. So we are not using seek to resume from where the user seeked.
Okay.
So let's leave it optional.
Leave it optional. Okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
because that'll open another can of worms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, seeked is done. Time from time to, all is good here. So if you want, you can add those three as recommended on seeked. It's not very important, but if you want, you can do that.
Okay. So what was it? Progress and played segments.
Length, progress, and played segments.
Length. Forgot length. Okay. I mean, length isn't going to change, right? It's just the length of the video.
Right, it doesn't change, but so far we are sending it with paused,
Initialized. Paused.
paused and completed and trigger terminated. So we are sending it along with everywhere we have played segments, because that single statement will be able to create the entire heat map.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
So you know the length and you know what sections are viewed, so you know everything just with one statement.
Gotcha.
Then we have completed, sorry, interacted and complete. So for completed, timestamp is included, extensions length is included, time is included, progress is included, played segments is, yeah. So for this completed as well, you need to make played segments as required, and I don't know if you should be able to do this, right? You should be able to make this result completion as required and true.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that?
Yeah. Yep. I need to add that. Okay. Results. That required as well. Result.completion.
Yeah, result completion.
Okay.
And also the result or duration. This should be required.
Yep. Now, okay. Total time spent consuming under registration. Now that's just going to be, but isn't that a duplicate of time? We have a time extension. Isn't that
No,
value going to end up being about the same?
no. Time is the time in the video. So let's say
Okay.
you, yeah.
I see. If they had multiple attempts and they watched it like, 5 times, it's going to be all of those 5 attempts combined to total up the duration, right?
Yeah,
It's how
yeah, kind
much
of. So,
total time they've spent watching.
yeah. So if a user watches a part of the video multiple times and then completes later, that entire time will be calculated for the duration. The
Okay.
time in the video will be the time when the user completed. So let's say the user watched the second half first and then watched the first half last. The time will be somewhere in the middle of the video.
Okay.
So for a 60-second video, it could be somewhere like 30
Yeah.
when the user completed the video. Terminated. Terminated. Length is included. Time, progress, plate segment. So in this also we can make plate segments as required.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Terminated. And then so
Wait, are you on terminated or completed?
on terminated.
Oh, terminated. Okay, sorry. I need to update terminated also then.
Yeah. So make plate segments as required.
Okay.
I'll add completion threshold in the chart.
At a completion threshold where?
I will do that in this table. So in the completed and terminated, completion threshold would be there as optional if it is
Okay.
one, and then required here. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, nice. I'll go back and update these and also work on updating that example more. Sorry, I hadn't made more progress. I just started tinkering around on Friday, and I'm like, man, it's just freaking whole another month has gone by. I haven't done anything on this. Let's try to set aside some time during the call at least.
Yeah. So generally, I am also not able to work throughout the month, and when it is like the meeting time, I feel like I should do something.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, it's good catching up with you, and I'll work on this some today and try to generate some of those example statements. Then maybe try to submit to Gitbook. Were you saying earlier there's some issues with Gitbook? If I tried to do an update, should I go through the GitHub repository instead of directly through Gitbook?
I think you have the access, so you should just be able to go to the edit page
Okay.
and publish from there. I don't know why you were not able to do that. So
Okay.
if it doesn't work, you can do it from GitHub as well.
Okay.
If you have 5 minutes more, there are one or two more things that I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So in the sorry, yeah, paid. In the played verb usage, I don't know why this it is mentioned like this. So it reads used when the actor generally played a video or clicked the play button. That is good. But after that, it says also used when the video starts after an actor seek to a new position in video.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know what that is. Is that in our definition everywhere, or is that?
I don't know when it was added and how it was added, but I don't think we ever did it. I don't think we ever had a play just after seat.
Yeah, because when you finish dragging a seeked video, does it play? I'm trying to remember.
So Video.js was sending a play trigger, I guess, or something like that was happening,
Oh,
and we did something to suppress that. But
yeah.
as part of profile, I don't think we ever had a requirement that both seat and plate will be sent.
Yeah, you're right. We did suppress it. I just ran that demo. So when you finish dragging it in the seeked, it does resume playing it, but it doesn't send a played statement. It just sends a seek statement. So yeah, we need to take that out of there. That description. That's a good point.
So I will do that. Fine. So I'll make that change, and I think that's it for now. Let's meet next month and try to wrap up these last few things.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right, man. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.